What is up, guys? It's the Silent Alchemist, part of OneMindSyndicate, and today we're back to talk about Warhammer 40k. Once again, we're going to be going back to the 30k era, where we're talking about one of the most badass Space Marines ever, and that is Raldoron of the Blood Angels. This guy has just been doing work, especially towards the end of the Horus Heresy during the Siege of Terra, and this is one of those encounters. So this excerpt comes from The Lost and the Damned, and it pits Raldoron, who's the first captain of the Blood Angels, taking on the 45th Company Night Lord's Clawmaster, the Painted Count. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's dive into this lore. "My lord," growled Scrivox's champion, "we must take you to a place of safety." "What? Now? At the moment of my triumph? When word of my deed reaches the War Master, I will be rewarded with power and riches. If I depart now, I will be known as nothing but a coward." The leader, another of his escort, raised his combi bolter, sighting it on a veteran captain whose armor was encrusted with high honors. Scrivox put his hands on top of the Terminator's gun and pushed it down. "He's mine. I want him. I want it to be known that I killed the captain of this gate myself." Scrivox pushed forwards into the fray. His Atramentar followed behind him. The first Blood Angel he encountered died so easily, Scrivox barely felt the ceramite part. The sword shifted in his hands as he swung, perfecting the strike. The edge cleaved through the warrior's helm, cutting it in half and passing deep into his torso. A lesser blade would have stuck, but not his sword. He pulled it out with a light tug, easy as plucking a blade of grass. Scrivox smiled to himself. Power flooded him. His body tingled with it. "Blood Angel," he shouted. His Terminators pushed aside the combatants, clearing him a path. "Blood Angel." The ramparts were broad, but crammed with fighters. The fighting was close and dirty work. There was little room for finesse. Another Blood Angel died to Scrivox's blows. The Atramentar laid about themselves, the booming of their power fists and the roar of their heavier weapons drawing the attention of one of the Blood Angel Ancients. It crushed the Space Marine it was fighting and threw down the leaking body. Bullets sprayed from its rotary cannon. One of the Atramentar was hit hundreds of times. The cannon overloaded his field generator, chewing through his layered ceramite and plasteel, and tore into the adamantium frame beneath. The man died inside his giant suit, and it fell over heavily. "Deal with that for me, would you, Sergeant?" said Scrivox. "I do not wish to be distracted. I will have that captain's skin for my cloak." "Our role is to protect the leader of—" "Do it!" screeched Scrivox. "Bring it down." His sergeant said no more, but moved with men to engage the dreadnought. Scrivox pushed on. The lines of the two warring legions were by now thoroughly blended. Bodies clogged the rampart. Footing was treacherous, but the enemy captain was near. "Blood Angel!" Scrivox yelled joyfully. "Face me!" And the Blood Angel finished his opponent and turned to face the Night Lord. Upon his left pauldron, his name was emblazed across a scroll plate, just legible under rivulets of blood. "Raldoron," said Scrivox. "The Raldoron?" He made a few passes with his sword, reveling in its lightness, in its killing edge. "This will be a day to celebrate, the day I slew the hero of the Blood Angels." He saluted and declaimed pompously, "I am Gendor Scrivox, the Painted Count, Lord Commander of the Night Lord's Legion, and I will be your end." The Blood Angel was unimpressed. "Never heard of you," he said, and came in to attack, his power sword buzzing. Scrivox simply laughed and parried the attack. The demon sword moved with a mind of its own to block the blow so fast that Raldoron was almost taken down by Scrivox's riposte, only a slicing deflection turning it aside. A second strike was thus deflected by Raldoron, and a third. The first captain of the Blood Angels was as good as his reputation suggested, but Scrivok was filled with sorcerous foreknowledge and supernatural speed. He saw an opening, and he moved in for the kill. He missed. He was too slow. Raldoron sidestepped the blow and twisted it aside with a slight flick of the blade. Scrivok stepped back. The delicious feeling of power was gone. The world lost its sheen. He was in the rain, on the wall, surrounded by the dead, and he could not beat this man. Panic gripped Scrivok's gut. The blade was heavy. It would not respond as it had, where before it accentuated his skills, lending him greater speed and strength, but now it did nothing. Raldoron pressed his attack, battering at Scrivok with a flurry of blows that he could barely detect. The demon had deserted him. "No," said Scrivok, "this cannot be." Raldoron's power sword banged against the edge of Scrivok's blade, sending him stumbling backwards. "That always was the problem with your legion, Night Lord," said Raldoron. "You are quick with your torturer's knives, but so few of you are worthy warriors." Raldoron swung his sword over arm, building momentum into a blow that would cut a power-armored warrior in two. Scrivok barely parried it, only just in time, stepping back and nearly tripping on the corpse of another Night Lord. The Blood Angel followed with another blow, and another, and another. Scrivok struggled to stop him. He was so fast. Scrivok was a Space Marine captain, and more than a passable swordsman. But Raldoron was a hero of the Imperium, whose name was known across the galaxy. He attacked with greater ferocity this time, and Scrivok's arm was numb from deflecting the blows before. He forayed a few attacks, but they put him in more danger, as Raldoron caught and countered every single one. His latest riposte was turned away, and Raldoron's power blade scraped sparks up on the side of his breastplate. "Atramentar," Scrivok called, his panic rising. "To me!" If they heard, they could do nothing. They fought the Blood Angel Dreadnought still, their number reduced to 3. "Night Lords, help me!" His power pack scraped the rock crate. He had his back to the outer crenellations, and he could not retreat any further. Raldoron faced him. His sword energy field buzzed in a downpour. "Listen to you," Raldoron said. "The masters of fear. You guys are all cowards, like all cruel men are." Raldoron's power sword slashed across Scrivok's chest, breaking open the ceramite and severing his power cabling. The painted count staggered, unbalanced by the sudden loss of energy to his warplate system. Raldoron lunged forward, stunning Scrivok further with a blow to the face from the punch guard of his sword. Cracks crazed all over his eye lenses. His fate plate systems fizzed and broke down into a display of meaningless blocks. He feebly attempted to parry, but Raldoron smashed it aside and turned the blade downwards, his own sword cutting deep into his greave, cleaving through ceramite, undersuit, and flesh, and sliding into the bone. Scrivok staggered to the side, slipped and fell backwards into the chute of a kernel. The kernel slopped down and narrowly towards the edge. Scrivok scrambled at the smooth, polished plasticrete of the surface, and succeeded in only making himself slide towards the killing drop. A red boot on his wounded leg pinned him in place. Scrivok cried out in pain. Raldoron leaned forwards to address him. "You are, and always were, an evil legion. You took the Emperor's mission and twisted it. Selfish, monstrous, tormentors of the weak," snarled Raldoron. "If Horus had not returned, I would have gladly led the hunt for your kind myself. I thank you from my heart that you came to my sword and saved me the trouble of looking." He shifted the weight of his foot, bringing another cry from Scrivok. "Wait," the painted count said. "I give you my surrender. You beat me. I am your prisoner." "There can be no prisoners in this war," said Raldoron. "How much mercy have you shown to those that you have harmed? I have as much mercy for you as you had for them. Now get off my wall." He shoved hard with his foot, sending Scrivok skidding towards the drop. The Night Lord dropped the demon sword to grip at the polished rockcrete with both of his hands. but there was no purchase on the blood-slick surface. He managed to brace himself on the Merlin-rounded corners with his elbows, and for a moment he thought he might save himself. He looked up to see the Blood Angel still staring at him. "You are a pompous man," Scrivok said, and Raldoron raised his bolt pistol. Screaming in defiance, Scrivok shoved himself over the edge, whence he plummeted, reaching terminal velocity long before he hit the ground, and the stone broke him. And with that being said, that was the excerpt from the novel The Lost and the Damned. This is pretty interesting because, for one, you don't really see the Night Lords really doing anything, at least in the 40k era. And here you see them kind of being this like villainous, twirling my mustache kind of like cookie cutter enemy. Yeah, he's like possessed by the demon, or at least the sword is, and that's where he's getting most of his power from. So when the demon dips out, you really do see this guy for what he is. A loser. Like, this guy had nothing going for him. He basically crumbled against the might of Raldoron. And yes, he is a captain, but so was he. And at the end of the day, you see just the power of Raldoron here, and really badass. How he takes him down and basically just kicks him off the palace walls. And yeah, so that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know more awesome characters from the 30k era, because we've been talking about Sigismund, Lucius, Narcona, Sherokin. These guys are all badass. I'll probably talk about Sevatar next, because this guy is pretty important, even more so than this guy here, who basically we could forget about the Pale Count. But yeah, like I said, Sevatar, aka Jago Sevatarian, is much more interesting. He's also part of the Night Lords, and he's a total badass, so I'll probably talk about him next. But with that being said, let me know all your topics down below, and we'll get to them eventually. But for now, it's been the Sound Alchemist, part of OneMindSyndicate, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.